Welcome back to Mr. Beck's Geography. Today we're going to be learning how to use the Frayer model. The purpose of the Frayer model is to help us to better understand words. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be running across a lot of new words in geography, and this model is going to help us to better understand these words. I understand that for many people in the class, this is going to be review, so this video will be kept short. So our learning objectives for this video is, and again, I'm just going to ask that you read along with me, please. We are learning to use the Frayer model. We are successful when we can use the Frayer model to better understand vocabulary terms in geography. So the Frayer model I'm going to be using with the class is a 6-box model. Again, the purpose of this 6-box model is to help us to better understand various vocabulary words that we're going to be encountering throughout this semester. So again, I just want to talk about what goes in each of these boxes of the Frayer model. So at the center of the Frayer model, we want to put the vocabulary term, and this is the term we're trying to better understand, we're trying to learn, and then we're also trying to remember. So and then the next box, we're initially on the upper left, we're going to write the definition of that vocabulary word. And again, you guys don't have to fill these boxes in a particular order, but I'm just going to go in a certain order here. So then our examples, you'll have to include an example of the vocabulary term in the middle next. Then you'll also have to include a characteristic. And a characteristic is just something that is common to all things that have this essential idea or concept. Non-example, what a non-example is it's the opposite of an example, or it's something that we might confuse with an example. Okay, so again, a non-example of geography would be something that might be the opposite of geography, or it might be something that we could easily confuse with geography. In image representation of geography, we would just make a little drawing or make a symbol that would help us to better remember what geography means and help us to better understand what this concept of geography is. So let's just go through the first example together. Okay, so first we're going to start off with a definition. So when we use a definition, what we want to do is we're initially going to look at a definition, and it's going to come from either our textbook or some other sort of source. But what we want to do with that definition is we don't want to just copy it. We want to try to put it into our own words. When we copy things down, that doesn't help us to understand that idea. What really helps us to understand something is to be able to put it in our own words. So again, I see the definition of geography up here is the study of people, places, and environments. However, to put this in our own words, I'm going to go ahead and reword this, and I'm going to write so again, learning about people, places, and environments. So we didn't really change the wording that much, but again, we try to do our best when we're rewording definitions. The more we can reword a definition, the more it'll get us to think about what that definition actually means, and it'll challenge and get us to think more about that word. Next, I'm going to do example. So when we come up with an example of geography, so one example of geography could be, we could say places. Places, when we study geography, we study places, would be an example of geography. Another example of geography could be, we could say, so again, let's look back to our definition of geography. Again, geography involves people, places, and environments. If we come up with an example of people, we could come up with Americans as an example. So again, when we study Americans, We also study geography. Next, I'm going to talk about a characteristic of geography. So for example, one characteristic we could put is when you study geography, you're studying certain weather conditions at certain times. Okay, okay. So let me go ahead and put down a second characteristic. So a second characteristic of geography we could put is people that study geography use maps. Okay. So again, when we're filling out the Frayer model, a lot of again there are right or wrong answers, but we don't need to necessarily worry too hard about picking an exact particular answer. A lot of times there's a lot of different right answers that would fill in these boxes and it would still work. So to come up with a non-example of geography, or maybe something that we could confuse with geography, is I'm just going to put down an example, a non-example of history. For example, things that we study in history are a lot of times similar to geography, but history is a different subject and it's a different area of study. Another area, another non-example we could use, um, so again, could be, in this case, it's hard to think of what the opposite of geography would be. Geography doesn't really have an opposite, but we could go ahead and put sociology, or the study of society and people. Again, sociology is similar to geography, but it's not the same, and that we need to acknowledge that these two are different. Again, we're going to be practicing this more in class, so if you don't understand everything about the Freer model yet, don't worry. We're going to talk more in class about this model.